where we will continue to follow. There he is, right on time in the last few seconds. Chris Hadfield, there he is, alive and well.
Canadian Space Agency astronaut Chris Hadfield being lowered into his seat now after being extracted from the Soyuz craft. All 3 crew members now safely out.
Okay, do we have everything here?
And we'll say goodbye now to our viewers watching us in Ontario and Quebec.
Rebound is loose. Sagan can't get it. Score! Brad Marchand!
Heartbreak in Leafs Nation tonight. The Buds fall to the Bruins in overtime and get eliminated from the playoffs. I'm Mike Wise. CBC News Toronto starts right now. It's not to be. Game 7 ends in defeat. We are live outside the ACC where disappointment is settling in.
Get out the fleece blankets. There's frost warnings in effect. I'll tell you when the warmer weather will return.
Where is Tim Bosma? 7 days after his disappearance and still no sign of the Hamilton man. Details on the suspect in custody and why he is anything but a usual suspect.
The ground in sight.
Touchdown! Canada's Chris Hadfield returns to Earth after rocketing to stardom in outer space. First, hello everyone. They were so close. Disappointment in Leafs Nation tonight as the team lost an exciting Game 7 in overtime after blowing a 4-1 lead. Natalie Collada was watching the game alongside thousands of fans outside the ACC and joins us from downtown tonight. Natalie.
Well, Mike, you can see the remnants of broken dreams scattered across the street and all down Bremner and York here outside of the ACC. Fans were so close. They thought their team was going to round 2, but in the end, a heartbreaking loss to the Boston Bruins. From up top, it was a sea of blue and white. Nearly 10,000 fans watching the Leafs in Game 7.
They're gonna win. They're gonna win.
Yeah. To make sure that happened, some superstitious fans stuck to what works.
I do have to have that in my hand.
Probably best day of my life.
That was great. I've been wearing the same clothes 36 hours.
Best day of my life. Top 3 days of my life.
And in the beginning, it looked like it just might do the trick.
Franson shoots, scores!
The excitement spilled over. Good news for businesses.
We did 98 kegs in the 3 days that the Leafs were in town.
And for a moment, it looked like the party for Toronto fans would continue. A 4-1 lead. Fans were sure, but from ecstasy to heartbreak. In the last minute, Boston tied the game, then scored in overtime. Leaf fans crushed.
It's pretty depressing. Like, we brought it to Game 7, and that was wonderful. 4-1 lead. Boston brings it back, and then for an overtime goal like that, like, they didn't even deserve it.
My heart's broken. It's horrible. 9 years. I'm proud of my Leafs. They played good. But the game today, 4-1, we were up. We shouldn't have let that lead go.
Wow, so Natalie, a lot of disappointed fans out there, but how are they reacting now and how are police handling the crowds?
Well, you can still see a few people leaving the ACC behind me, but earlier as the thousands of fans spilled out, there were a few who were a bit rowdy, some people throwing beer bottles, others taking the opportunity to pull the tails and slap the horses of the mounted units that were walking up and down the street. Police trying to clear the streets as quickly as possible to disperse and sort of tamper and dampen that sort of fervent anger that some of the Leaf fans were displaying. But for the majority of the fans, there was just a lot of heartbreak as they cried and left Maple Leaf Square here and wait, of course, for next season. Reporting live at Bremner and York, I'm Natalie Collada.
Okay, thank you, Natalie. So what happened? And more importantly, what went wrong? Well, let's bring in Signa Butler from CBC Sports. So Signa, talk us through the game tonight.
Oh, it was looking so good, wasn't it, Mike? You know, the Leafs had fought so hard to get into this Game 7, and the momentum was on their side, especially in the third period, and we'll show you why, how things started out so well. The Bruins were riding the momentum of their home crowd, but the Leafs on a real roll, and they were in the third period. Nazem Kadri, Phil Kessel connecting, and Kadri puts away the rebound. That was a 4-1 lead, but the Bruins roared back to life. 4-2 Leafs, less than 2 minutes to play. Milan Lucic brings the Bruins within 1, and then 51 seconds on the clock. Patrice Bergeron tied things up, and we know how it finished. 6 minutes into the extra frame, a flurry in front of James Reimer, and Bergeron would play the hero in this one. Mike, 5-4 the final. Bruins are in the second round, and Leafs coach Randy Carlyle said his team was just missing that special something to close out the series.
This is what it's going to take, and we did a lot of good things, but we still didn't find a way to close it out. So that's the difference. One goal, one bounce, one body check, one block shot could have made the difference for a win or a loss in a series.
Okay, Mike, so the consolation is they weren't supposed to get this far, but certainly heartbreaking having that 4-1 lead and losing it late in the third period.
So close. So the Leafs were supposed to go on to round 2, but it's the Bruins now. So the Rangers and the Capitals, they were battling out tonight in their own Game 7. Who will Boston face?
Well, the home team had won every game in that series, and it will be not the Washington Capitals. It will be the New York Rangers, who came in and upset Washington tonight. They were in total control in this game. 2-0 in the second period. Michael Delzato will find the back of the net. 3-0 for the Rangers, and they kept their foot on the gas in the third. Matt Zuccarello, no mistake. 5-0 was the final over the Capitals, and Mike, had the Leafs won tonight, they would have had home ice advantage for the playoffs. Not to, put any more lemon into the wounds out there with our Leaf fans, but tomorrow, the only Canadian team left in the playoffs, the Ottawa Senators, will take on the Pittsburgh Penguins. We'll have that for you on Hockey Night in Canada.
You're just rubbing the salt in the wounds. Thanks, Signa.
I wasn't trying to.
Thanks a lot, Signa.
My pleasure.
So stay where you are. We'll have more Game 7 coverage on the way. We'll see what they are saying in Boston and how Leafs Nation is reacting online. We'll have that story a little later. Time for a first look at the local weather forecast. Let's bring in meteorologist Claire Martin in the Toronto Weather Centre. And Claire, could we be in for some record lows tonight?
I think we might actually, Mike. We're awfully close to setting temperature records. We did last night. I see no reason why we won't tonight. Oh, isn't that awful? Perish the thought. Earlier on this evening, temperatures weren't too bad, but that's about as warm as they got all day. So it was a cold day, a little bit of a breeze out there. That breeze, however, from the west, northwest, and it's gradually starting to weaken. And as a result, temperatures are going to drop. I'm going to take us down to around +1 in the city, easily down to the freezing mark in the outlying areas. The cloud filtering in as we go through the morning, and then warmer weather gradually building in. I'll talk more about that a little later. Mike, back to you.
Okay, thanks, Claire.
You're welcome.
It is another troubling night for the family of Timothy Bosma. It was a week ago he disappeared after meeting 2 men who answered an online ad to buy his pickup truck. Tonight, police are focusing their efforts in the Waterloo area. With the latest on the investigation, here's Travis Downrash.
It's my prayer and my wish to get my son home.
It has been 7 days of hell for the Bosma family. Tonight, prayers and hope are what they continue to lean on as the search for the Hamilton man drags into its second week.
It's a little eerie, it's awfully close to home now.
A forensics van sits just steps away from Gail Russell's Waterloo Cafe. Today, police searched an airport hangar owned by 27-year-old suspect Dylan Millard's family.
A lot of customers have been asking, what's going on, because some of them did not know, but most of them do know what's going on.
Over the weekend, Millard was arrested and charged with forcible confinement and theft over $5,000. On Thursday at his mother's home in Kleinburg, a black trailer parked out front raised red flags.
Pulled right up against the garage door. Black trailer, it was, it looked very expensive, and it was just parked there. I mean, nothing other than it being out of the ordinary.
Yesterday, that trailer was seized by police. They're awaiting a search warrant, but believe Bosma's truck is inside. It was taken for a test drive by 2 men last Monday. Over 500 tips have flooded police phone lines over the past week. The internet continues to be a crucial tool for family, friends, and strangers utilizing it to search for Bosma.
Mainly on social media. It's posted everywhere, so every Tim Hortons you go to, it's there.
Just feeling really sad that happened, and sad for his family. This is a hard time for them.
Today, the family asked for privacy. Police say the search will now be concentrated in the Kitchener-Waterloo area. They've obtained search warrants to begin combing the region. Travis Downrash, CBC News, Toronto.
We are also learning more about Dylan Millard, the suspect police arrested over the weekend. His lawyer says he plans to plead not guilty, that he's well-educated and wealthy, and that's why he had no reason to steal a truck. Jeff Semple has more on that part of the story.
Police believe they found Tim Bosma's truck in a trailer clearly parked in Dylan Millard's mother's driveway. What remains unclear is why Dylan Millard would ever need to steal anything.
I'm shocked, yes. Yeah, I'm shocked. He was a pleasant young man.
Neighbors on the high end of Etobicoke Street, where Millard grew up, remember a young man who loved fast toys and whose parents could afford to buy them. That's him on his 14th birthday, making headlines after setting a world record as the youngest person to fly a helicopter and an airplane by himself in one day.
It's like holding a plate on your finger, trying to keep that thing straight, and it was very much different, but I got used to it.
By all accounts, Millard's family made their fortune in the charter airline business. There's his grandfather, Carl, who founded Millard Air, featured in this CBC story 20 years ago.
When we get a call, we guarantee we'll be going in 30 minutes.
Millard went to private school, took private flying lessons at the Brampton Flying Club. When his father passed away last December, he inherited the airline business. Today, the family's 50,000 square foot hangar at Waterloo Airport was raided by police.
Obviously, he's shocked by the allegations. This is, as I said before, it's not at all within his character. He doesn't have a record. Family's well-to-do financially.
Millard's lawyer says his client has no history of trouble and could afford to buy whatever he wanted.
He went to a private school, well-educated, very low-key, very humble guy.
But his hobbies were anything but low-key. While running a small airline, it's clear his real passion was for fast cars, souping up vehicles in his garage, in the hangar. His online profile shows he recently traveled to Mexico to take part in the Baja 500 off-road desert race. For his part, it seems Millard isn't shedding light on any of this. Police say he's not cooperating with the investigation. His lawyer says he's exercising his right to remain silent. Jeff Semple, CBC News, Toronto.
The TTC is standing behind one of its drivers tonight after a video surfaced online of a passenger not being allowed to exit the back doors of a bus.
No one knows. Let me off!
This video was taken on Saturday as a female passenger stood at the back door of a bus, demanding the driver open it because she felt sick. The bus was stopped in the middle of traffic on Yonge at Maitland. The driver wouldn't open the back door because he didn't think it was a safe spot to exit. He eventually got to a safer location and opened the front door and asked her to exit there. The TTC says the driver handled the situation well, despite the yelling and swearing. Toronto is getting its second Afrocentric high school starting this September. Today, the Toronto District School Board announced Downsview Secondary School will run the program this upcoming school year. It will offer grade 9 students African-centered studies in English, geography, math, and French. Winston Churchill Collegiate was the first high school to offer the Afrocentric curriculum. An information session is planned for parents and students at Downsview Secondary tomorrow. Back to our top story tonight, heartbreak in Leafs Nation. The Bruins beat out the Buds in overtime. We were so close we could almost taste round 2, but the roller coaster of emotion ended in defeat. We'll show you how Toronto and Boston fans are reacting online next. Plus, mission accomplished. Canadian astronaut Chris Hadfield is back on solid ground. See more of his dramatic return to Earth and where he's heading next.
Bar's broken. It's horrible. Stunned. I'm stunned that we lost that game.
Disappointment across Leaf Nations tonight. The boys in blue get knocked out of the first round of playoffs by Boston. The Bruins take Game 7 in overtime with a 5-4 win. There was a roller coaster of emotion on Twitter all night long as the game progressed. I want to show you a tweet from I am Chris Lee saying, not like this, not like this. His reaction when the Leafs finally lost this. But many fans on Twitter became deflated after the end of the third period, even posting some very sad pictures of themselves on Instagram showing their reaction. This can't even be real right now. Now, Dan Schulman from ESPN's summarizing a lot of the overconfidence a lot of Leaf fans had, even with the years of experience of being a Leafs fan. I let myself believe it was over. Now, earlier in the night, it was actually Bruins fans who were talking a lot like Leafs fans, normally horrified at the team's plays. Cameron posting a gravesite saying, I finally accept it. Here lies the Bruins' chances at the 2013 Stanley Cup. A few minutes later, though, Bruins fans were in a much happier place, tweeting they've just witnessed the greatest Game 7 comeback in the history of the first round of the NHL. Now, leaving Leafs fans to wonder, what really happened at the end of the night, but still proud of their team. Here's a tweet from Uday saying, "Good job, Leafs. You earned the respect of everyone. Go Leafs, go." That's a look at what was trending tonight.
You can see the parachute coming down and the plume coming up from the soft landing engines.
That was Chris Hadfield landing on Earth in Kazakhstan tonight, as you may have seen on the National. He touched down around 10:30 this evening. Hadfield just ended his 5-month mission as Canada's first Canadian commander on board the International Space Station. He was checked up after landing and will eventually start making his way to Houston. The flight is expected to arrive there late tomorrow night. Of course, Hadfield took the internet by storm during his time in space. Here we go.
We're going to open up our tortilla. We're going to get our peanut butter, squirt it onto the tortilla.
Ground control to Major Tom.
Those are just some of the key moments Hadfield shared from space, including personal ones like brushing his teeth, how to clip his nails, of course, how to wash his face in zero-G. And this woman knows a thing or two about returning from space. Dr. Roberta Bondar, Canada's first woman to go to space. She will be on Metro Morning tomorrow to talk about what it's like to readjust to life back on the ground. So set your alarm. She'll talk with Matt Galloway at 7:50 a.m. Feels more like March out there than May. A frost warning is in effect, but Claire says it is going to get better. She'll be back to tell us when, coming up next. Welcome back. We want to tell you about a bold program at Sunnybrook Hospital aimed at convincing high school students to plan a safe ride home after their prom by showing them some shocking, very graphic examples of what can happen when teenagers drink and drive. Stephanie Matisse reports.
And he lands on his head, and then as a bonus, he gets run over by other vehicles.
Constable Keith Ingram's video shows a man thrown from his car on Highway 427. It's supposed to make a point about risky behavior for this audience. 34 grade 10 students from Upper Canada College.
I had to leave for a bit because I just couldn't watch it.
It was too graphic for you?
Yeah, it's way too graphic.
The boys are participants in a program called PARTY. That stands for Prevent Alcohol and Risk-Related Trauma in Youth. The subject matter is relentlessly jarring. The videos, lectures, touring the hospital, and even meeting trauma survivors.
Because I landed on my back, I broke my spinal cord. That was the day that I wasn't able to walk.
They talked about depression that led to a suicide attempt, a devastating car crash.
When I first came home, I felt lost. I used to look at the window and say to God, why am I still here?
And alcoholism.
After drinking all day, I lost my balance and I went head first down the stairs and I snapped my neck in 3 places. Know your limit. Or do like me, I don't drink at all.
For the boys, the lesson sinks in.
So is there any behavior that you're going to change as a result of today?
Don't do anything you're not comfortable with.
Probably just make sure I'm always wearing a seatbelt. Just be cautious, think of your surroundings and always be careful.
Yeah, always listen to that that voice in your head that's saying like, oh, maybe this isn't such a good idea.
While there is no guarantee that the teens will avoid risk-taking behavior, administrators here at UCC say that a program like this will at least get them to think twice. And in fact, the teens had a semi-formal on Friday night, and there were no incidents. Stephanie Matisse, CBC News, Toronto.
We're looking at a live shot of the Toronto skyline. We could see some record lows tonight. Right now it is just 6 degrees downtown. And Claire Martin is back with a look at your 7-day GTA forecast. And Claire, we're looking at frost tonight, and that can't be good news for fruit farmers across southern Ontario.
No, not just the urban gardeners out there, but yeah, our fruit farmers, any trees that have already started to bud and blossom. Yeah, frost is the last thing you need to hear about. Records were set, as you mentioned, last night right through central and northern Ontario. Sioux Lookout, that record goes back to the 1940s. So some of these have been standing for a while. I think we'll see more in the way of records as we go through the overnight period tonight. Clear out there right now. We had a few showers lingering, but they've really diminished completely as that ridge of high pressure has built its way down and in. And that's the source of the cooler air. Now, notice some high clouds starting to spill its way across from the west. That high cloud will make its way through as we go into tomorrow morning. So starting off with high cloud around, still dry. And then as we go through the day, the cloud thickens up. By lunchtime, still dry, still fairly cloudy. into the afternoon, and the leading edge of some patchy showers is just starting to show up in and around the GTA. Now, essentially, we're looking at a dry one, a cool one still, temperatures clawing their way up into the low teens, and then after that we start to warm up. It had to happen sooner or later, right? Into Tuesday there, then your increasing cloud, highs of 14, patchy showers Tuesday night into Wednesday morning along a warm front, which brings in the warmer weather. So temperatures bump up Wednesday and Thursday, so too do the overnight lows. We won't have to worry about frost after tonight, quite frankly. Slightly cooler Friday and Saturday as we bring in a bit of a lake breeze. Sunday could be interesting. I think there's a good chance of seeing some thunderstorms around, but at least we stay above the 20-degree mark Sunday and Monday. That's your forecast, Mike. Back to you.
Looking a lot better as we go along. Thanks, Claire.
You're welcome.
Coming up, Toronto's new recruits. Why police hope these new cops will help them connect with Toronto better than ever before. You could soon see some fresh new faces walking the beat in Toronto. After a 2-year hiring freeze, Toronto police graduated 80 new recruits today. As Michelle Chung found out, the officers truly reflect the communities they are about to serve.
These are the new faces you'll see walking the streets of Toronto in a uniform. Almost half of these rookies are Black, South Asian, Chinese, or Korean. Many of them speak a second language.
We've been told that there's always need for interpreters, and so because Toronto is a very multicultural society, there's always that need for someone who can speak an additional language, and having that skill set is definitely an advantage.
In recent years, Toronto Police has made it a goal to create a diverse force to reflect the community they serve, but they don't always end up working in those communities.
Until now, there's only been one Somali-speaking officer in the Toronto Police Force, and he hasn't been posted to a division where it's predominantly Somali.
Omar received a Bachelor of Arts degree with a major in Criminology and Justice.
Omar Ismail is the second officer hired by Toronto Police who speaks Somali. His brother was the first.
You need a bridge between the Somali community and Toronto Police, and I feel like I can do that.
That bridge is increasingly important. Tomorrow, a local MPP and his federal counterpart are calling for joint federal-provincial action on the unsolved murders of dozens of Somali men in Ontario and Alberta since 2006.
We see it as a priority, finding qualified recruits from within the Somali community, because we need those language skills, we need connections into that community, and it is by building that strong relationship with the Somali community that we can keep their young people safe and help us solve some of the crimes that have taken place.
Ismail is going to be posted at 23 Division, which has a large Somali Canadian population. He sees this as the end of a long personal journey, but perhaps the beginning of a new one for Toronto Police. Michelle Chung, CBC News, Toronto.
And that is our show for tonight. For Claire, Signa, and everyone here, thanks for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow night. Good night.